Welcome to College Nights. Said again, my name is Daniel. Really excited that you decided to be here today. Man, I think today is going to be a really special night for you. And to be honest with you, it has been a minute since I feel like the last time I have been up here. And it's been because we're busy. Starting a church is no joke. It is a lot of work. It's a lot of fun. It's the best thing, probably one of the best decisions I made in a long time. Second best decision, I'll tell you what the best one is, because it's been a long time since I've been up here. A lot's changed for me in 4 years. It's been 4 years since the last time I taught at a College Nights. And the last time I was here, we did this whole thing on Exodus. And the reason I'm telling you that is because tonight is quite literally a continuation of where that talk left off. This is literally a part 2, except 4 years ago, there was a live camel outside just because we played under the theme. And go out there and pet the camel, feed the camel. A lot has changed in those past 4 years. And I don't mean just about like this place and the animals that we bring here. I'm talking about like a lot has changed in the past 4 years about my life. But I want to let you into probably the most important thing that's changed about me. Probably the most important thing that's changed. And I'm not talking about like I graduated. I'm not talking about starting a full-time job here. The most important thing that's happened to me in the past 4 years is this. I love that picture because it's quite literally what every day feels like. So, there it is. It's great. But here's the funny thing I was thinking about this picture. This is the most important thing that's happened to me in the past 4 years. I hope for some of you dudes, you're looking at this, and this is a little bit of an encouragement, because there is no shot that you're looking at that picture, looking at her, and looking at me, and saying this makes sense. You laughed far too hard. That hurt. I was hoping to get some grace. I get it. She looks like a model and I look like a transformer. I don't know. But the most important thing that's happened to me in the past 4 years is undeniably that moment. And it's hilarious to me because the reason I put that up there is because you almost know that like it's gonna spawn an applause from you. It's just like you subliminally know that like when you see a picture like that, this is like the culminating moment to a very long season of life. Like you know that. There's a reason when you see wedding pictures, and they're adorable and they're cute and all that, but you applaud them because you know that it took a season of work to get there. You're getting to see the cherry on the top of a long couple years of work. Like you don't get to see the hard conversations, like you don't get to see the tears, you don't get to see the hard combos, you don't get to see the work, you don't get to see the hurt, you don't get to see the pain, you don't get to see any of that. You just get to see the culminating moment. And the reason you know it's worth applauding is because in the back of your head, you know that works. Because, and honestly, if I'm going to define what it looks like for us, honestly, our season of dating really did look like a whole lot of waiting. Because let me explain that to you. Let me tell you how we met. That might make it even easier for you, all right? I started here 5 years ago, and about 4 years ago, I got tasked to go recruit squad leaders for an event or camp that we do called VR. Josh, who was just up here, was a squad leader at our VR. This is how he got plugged in here. W. Did you win, Josh? No, yeah, it's fine. It's just how it works. I got tasked to go recruit some squad leaders. My boss at the time was like, hey, you need to go find people. And if you've been to VR, you know that this is an extensive process. We don't allow just anyone to squad lead at VR. Like, we take this very seriously. And so I'm working here. He gets a lead on this girl that's like, hey, man, I think this girl would crush at squad leading. Do you mind interviewing her, getting to know her, and figuring out if she's going to be a good fit for this? And I'm like, absolutely. Like, like, let's do this. And so I have a 20-question extensive interview report that I'm going to fill out. I got 20 questions to ask this girl. I text her. I'm like, ma'am, will you meet me at the Jit Joe's in 5 Points at 10 a.m. on Tuesday for real? Not in ad for real, but I told her to meet me there. 10 a.m. I get there at 9:45. I got my computer out. I got a notepad out. I got my coffee out. I'm ready. I'm like memorizing these questions. I've got like, what's your name, your social, like, where are you from? Like, I've got an extensive interview process. And I'm waiting. There's 9:45. And then about 10 o'clock, right on the dot, the door opens, the Jit Joe's. And Shorty don't even get through the door frame. Hired. Hired. Period. As it. I am now being interviewed here. Put me on the stand, Your Honor. I am guilty, and I really hope I get life with her, because that is what I'm hoping happens. But you can laugh all you want, but here's the reality of that story. I wish I could tell you that I met her on Tuesday at 10 a.m. and we got married Tuesday at 6 p.m. I wish I could tell you that's how it happened, but it didn't. It doesn't work like that. And you don't have to be a genius, and you don't have to be some like dating philanthropist or someone that understands and has studied dating for a long time to know that it doesn't work like that. Like, you just know it does. After that, matter of fact, I wish that there was like, we got married at 10 p.m. that night. There's a reality is that I told her, I didn't tell her. I had a crush on this girl. I fell in love with her from that moment. But the fun part is that for 3 years, she didn't. So I liked her for about 3 whole years. 3 years of waiting for the hope that this girl would catch feelings for me. And after 3 years of waiting, she did. And we have this conversation, this mutual, like, you like me, I like you, great, let's make this thing work. We have a brief conversation about that. But then I waited 3 years just to get this girl to like me. And after I finally get her to like me, we start engaging in like what dating could look like for us. And then a lot of stuff started coming to the surface where I started realizing, man, like, she's going through a real extensive healing process right now. There's a lot going on in her story right now that if I were to legitimately jump into this, it probably wouldn't go well for her, and it wouldn't go well for me, and it wouldn't go well for us. So we just had a clarifying conversation of like, if this is going to work, it's going to take some waiting. I'd already waited 3 years in this conversation of, I want this to work. And honestly, for some of you, that's your first piece of advice for tonight, all right? It is okay to wait as long as they give you clarity. She had told me, I want this to work. And we had to wait a couple months for it because there was so much going on in her heart and her story, and I knew I couldn't interfere into that. But the thing is that even after that, as we started dating, I waited 3 years to get her to like me. I waited a couple months for us to actually be able to start dating. And then when you start dating, you date for a long time. You wait to get engaged. After you get engaged, you wait to get married. After you get married, I wish I could tell you that the waiting just ends. You look at a picture like that and you all applaud it like it's culminated like this, some grand finale. The waiting isn't over. I wish I could tell you up here, like, guys, once you get married, all of it's over. Like, your anxiety's out the window, you figured life out. No, the waiting just repeats and repeats itself. Like, at this point now, it's like you're waiting to buy a house. You're waiting for kids. You're waiting for the perfect job. You're waiting for this. You're waiting for that. The waiting doesn't just go away. And if you're going to take the dating hat off for a second, you don't have to be old. You don't have to even be a Christian to know that life operates in seasons of waiting. That's just how life works. This is how God intended life to work. This is why God created the world in 7 days instead of 1. You don't think he could have created all of creation in one sitting? It's because he honors and he values seasons of pausing and seasons of waiting because he knows that they work. He knows that the way he designed the fabric of the world to work, like in Genesis 1, was there was evening and there was night, because God is helping you to understand that waiting is something that he values. And there's a lot of reasons he put you in waiting. The reason God's put you in seasons of waiting is because it is exposing of you. Waiting tells me a lot about you. Waiting exposes and brings things up in your heart that you didn't even know were there. 3 major things that happen to you when you're in a season of waiting. Your trust gets tested. You will grasp for control. And you will run toward the familiar. And the dangerous thing, and here's what bothers you about a season of waiting, is the fact that it's unavoidable. You know what it's like to wait. You know whether it's a short or a long season. Life is designed in a season of waiting. You will wait for answers. You will wait for clarity. You will wait for someone. You will wait for a job. You will wait for some relief. You will wait for a text back. You will wait for some peace. You will wait for a grade. You will wait for the pain to go away. You will wait for the sadness to go away. You will wait for God to tell you what to do next. God operated and designed your life in a season of waiting. And if you all know this to be true, this is honestly, it feels like a little bit of common sense. You know what it's like to wait. And I'm telling you that the seasons that you're walking through of intentional waiting, whether you're waiting for an answer, you're waiting for clarity on what to do, you're a senior who graduates in a couple months, and God hasn't told you where you're going yet, you've gone through a tragedy or some hurt, and you're just waiting for relief or for the pain or for the sadness to go away. You know what it's like to wait. And I'm telling you that the reason God designed seasons and he designed waiting is because it will expose you. And that doesn't make him a tyrant. He exposes you because he loves you. He is willing to expose the things in you that cannot satisfy you because he loves you. And the thing that will bother you the most about a season of waiting is that what happens in a season of waiting is that you end up begging God to see his hand. But the purpose of a season of waiting is God wants to give you his heart. And that truth will bother you. It will annoy you. The purpose of a season of waiting is you will go through it and you will ask God to let me see your hand. You will ask for the hand of God to point you in the direction you're supposed to go. You will ask to hear his voice to tell you something about you, to tell you something about the person you're with. You will ask for his voice to give you some clarity. You will ask for something. You will ask to see the hand of God. But the purpose of your season of waiting is because God is less interested in giving you his hand and more interested in showing you his heart. And the reason waiting is revealing and exposing and difficult for you is because that bothers you. No one taught you to be impatient. You couldn't remember the first time you learned to be impatient. You were in a season of waiting and something in your heart stirred up and was telling you, I don't like this. No one taught you that. It's because waiting bothers you. And the reason I know this to be true isn't because I'm guessing. It's because it's exactly what happens in Exodus 32. And so I want you to flip there, click there, it's gonna be on the screen. You can go with me. But to be honest with you, in order for you, I told you this was going to be a continuation of where we picked up like 4 years ago. The thing you need to know about the story of the Exodus, all right? In order for you to understand Exodus 32, I'm going to have to walk you through what Exodus is. So walk with me here for a second. Let me give you the context of everything you're about to read. The story of the Exodus is about an Exodus. That is why it's called that. You get to the first half, and honestly, the story of the Exodus is really split into two, with the culmination of this whole story being the ocean. But the whole thing you're going to start to notice about the story of the Exodus is that the first half is a physical exodus of God getting the Israelites out of Egypt. And then you get to the culminating moment of the ocean, and everything after the ocean changes. Because now it's about getting Egypt out of the Israelites. Because here's how the whole story starts. You've got a group of Israelites who have been slaves for generations. Generations. This is all they know. They don't know get up and eat breakfast and go to class. They know get up and work. This is all they know. Generations of this, hundreds of years of this. This means that this is all they know, their mom knows, their dad knows, their grandma knows, their grandpa knows, their uncle knows, their aunt knows, their dog knows, their great-grandmother, their great-grand. This is all that they know. And into their slavery and into their experience in Egypt, God sends a deliverer. Moses shows up and demands that Pharaoh would let them go. And here's the thing you've got to remember as we're navigating the story of the Exodus. You've got to keep a framework in the back of your head of remembering. You've got to think through what these people are experiencing. Do you understand the things these people have seen? You heard this in Sunday school at one point, and your brain accepted this as like metaphorical literature. So when I tell you that God turned a river to blood, you're like, that's crazy. When I tell you things like he made it rain frogs, like you're like, wow. And you'll read it like it's all metaphorical, when all of this is factual history. But here's the deal. He starts sending all these things happening, and every single one of them isn't necessarily a punishment on Pharaoh. You thought that all of these were just random. Like God is seated and enthroned in heaven, and he's like, welcome to wheel of misfortune. He's just going to spin it, and it's going to land on a locust. And he's like, well, punishment for the day. Like, that's not what's happening. Every single one of these is an intentional, not just an intentional punishment on what Pharaoh is saying no to. All of these are a theological attack on what they believe. That's what this is. You thought that when God blocked out the sun, it was random. God made it pitch black during the day, and you thought it was random. It's because the Egyptians worshiped the sun god of Ra. And so the whole purpose of God blocking out the sun wasn't just, I'm here to punish Pharaoh because he won't let my people go. It's, I want you to know that Ra can't stop this. This isn't just a physical punishment on him. This is an attack on their whole belief system, because there's something about God that is less about the physical and more about addressing something in you. And he's just showing this theme over and over and over. And then you get to the culminating moment of the Exodus, which is the ocean. He gets to the Red Sea. This is the culminating moment of the Exodus, because from this moment on, everything's gonna change. From this moment on, everything's going to change. Everything you heard and everything you just read is about a physical exodus, about getting them out of Egypt. Everything after the ocean is about God getting Egypt out of them. You're going to notice it. Because from this moment on, every time they start to get into a trial, they get into a moment of waiting, they're tempted to believe something that is not true about God, and they're going to immediately go back. or they're going to immediately want to go back. They get to the ocean. They look forward and see water. They look back and see Egyptians. And they look at Moses and ask him, did you bring us out here because they ran out of graves in Egypt? They look at the water. They look back at the Egyptians. They're in a moment of waiting, a season of waiting, a period of waiting. And they immediately start believing God brought us out here to kill us. He's left us. He's abandoned us. And it looks much easier like to go back to Egypt. And then God does what God does, and he splits the ocean, and they walk through it on dry land. And then they get to the other side, and you see a consistent theme of this happening. They get to the other side, and the battle, now the trial gets a little bit more difficult. Now they're hangry. They get out there, and they're walking around the desert, and they haven't eaten in a while. And so they turn to Moses again, and they go, hey, did God bring us out here to starve us? At least we had food in Egypt, which is a crazy thing to say. To look back at a place where you and your family have been enslaved for generations and go, well, they had Chick-fil-A, is a crazy thing to say. And it's insane to me. Because honestly, you want to know what's happening in the heart of the Israelites when they look at Moses and go, at least there was food back in Egypt. That tells me that they don't understand freedom. If you consistently keep looking back at the very thing that enslaved you, it doesn't tell me that that thing's really good at enslaving you. It tells me that you don't understand freedom. So they get to the ocean, and they start asking all these questions. The temptation to go back arrives. They start asking all these questions about God, things that aren't true about God. They get through, they get hangry. They start asking him, did God bring us out here to starve us? At least we had food back in Egypt. God makes it rain bread, and he spawns meat, and he feeds them. And then you get to Exodus 32. And in Exodus 32, everything's about to change. In Exodus 32, the entire story is going to shift. In Exodus 32, everything from this moment on will never be the same for them. Because this time, they're going to face their hardest challenge yet. Waiting. And this time, they're going to be put in a season of waiting. The temptation to trust something that is not true about God will arise. But this time, they're actually going to go back. So Exodus 32, starting at verse 1, read with me. When the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said, come and make us gods who will go before us. As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what's happened to him. Aaron answered them, take off the gold earrings that your wives, your sons, and your daughters are wearing, and bring them to me. So all the people took off their earrings, brought them to Aaron. He took what they handed him and made it into an idol cast in the shape of a calf, fashioning it with a tool. Then they said, these are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt. And when Aaron saw this, he built an altar in front of the calf and announced, tomorrow there will be a festival to the Lord. So the next day, people rose early and sacrificed burnt offerings and presented fellowship offerings. Afterward, they sat down to eat and drink and to indulge in revelry. Moses is gone for 40 days. Wandering through the desert, they pause for a second. Moses is gone for 40 days. He goes up Mount Sinai because what God is giving him in this moment is giving the Israelites instructions on how to live with each other. We're talking about people who have been enslaved for generations. They don't know how to live together. So when he gives him the 10 commandments and you read things like thou shalt not murder, to you it's clear, not to people who this is all they know. He's giving them instructions on how to live with each other. And while he's gone, they start asking things like, where's Moses? We haven't seen him. He was so long in coming down from the mountain. We don't know where he is. So they ask Aaron, will you come and make us gods to go before us, to give us some sort of direction? They don't know where Moses is. You want to know what inevitably happened to them? Yeah, their trust got tested. They grasped for control. And they ran toward the familiar. He's gone for 40 days. And we haven't seen him. And we haven't heard from him, which means that we haven't heard from God, which means that we don't know where we are, and it means that we don't know where we're going. They're in a season of waiting for 40 years, and you want to know what happened to them? You got to lock in here, because here's what ended up happening to them, because this is what happens to you when you get into an elongated season of waiting. This is what ends up happening to you when you're in a period of waiting, whether it is short or long. This is what happens in your heart when you have to wait. The longer the season in which you have to wait, you will be more tempted to believe that God is something he never claimed to be. And that will form the basis of your idolatry. That's exactly what's happening here. The longer the season that you have to wait, you will be more tempted to believe that something is true about God that he never said was true of himself, and that will form the basis of your idolatry. The longer the season of your singleness and your confusion around dating, you will be more tempted to subliminally believe that God does not have someone good or anything good for you, and it will form the basis of your idolatry, and you will settle for someone who gives you attention but no direction. The longer the season in which you don't know what to do or where to go, you will be tempted to believe that God isn't good and can't be trusted with your future. And that will form the basis of your idolatry. And you will run down roads you were never meant to go down. And you will cope with whatever method satisfies the deep longing of your soul. The longer the season of your loneliness, you will be tempted to believe that God does not care about you or love you, and it will form the basis of your idolatry, and you will run to forms of pleasure you've been trying to run from for years. This is what waiting exposes in your heart. Your trust will get tested. We don't know where Moses is, and we haven't heard from God in a while. And you will grasp for control. You will grab whatever there is around you to make a god and to form a calf. And what's fascinating about the reality that they created a calf is that the calf is the same image of the god they worshipped in Egypt. Which is crazy, because this time when they got into a season of waiting and started believing things about God that weren't true, instead of going back to Egypt, they made it. Did you realize it? Instead of going back to Egypt, they ended up going back anyways, but this time they created it because they ran back towards the familiar. And what's fascinating to me about this story is, did you notice that they didn't even create a new god? They didn't even create a new one. They created one they could control. This one can't go up Sinai. This one can't tell me what to do. This one can't talk to me. This one can't try and guide me. This one can't direct me. This one responds faster to me because this one sounds like me and this one is me. And a God that is me cannot challenge me. And a God that cannot challenge you cannot change you. And so you're worshiping what? All of it for what? They ran. Their trust got tested. They grasped for control and they ran to the familiar. And they ended up creating a God that wasn't even a new God. Because when Aaron created the calf, he showed it to them and said, hey, this is the God that brought you out of Egypt. No, it's not. And the reason when you get to the bottom of that and like verse 6, when it says, come, we're going to make sacrifices to the Lord, and it says the Lord in all caps. Yes, when your Bible says the Lord in all caps, that's the Hebrew name for Yahweh. It's the name that God gave himself. So when he brought them the calf, he said, look, it's Yahweh. They didn't create a new God. They created one they could control. They didn't create a new God. They reshaped him. That's all that they tried to do. And I'm telling you, friend, these are some sneaky, stupid little cows, because here's what they start to look like in your life. You were in a season of waiting. You started to believe something that wasn't true about God, and you created a calf. And here's what that calf started to look like. You started forcing a relationship because you were tired of being alone. Some of you, your calf looks like settling for someone who gave you attention but not direction. For some of you, your calf looked like you started lowering your convictions because you wanted to keep him close. Some of you, your calf looks like you started watching that stuff because it sold you intimacy. For some of you, your calf looks like you ended up going downtown a ton this semester because you didn't want to be lonely. And this gave you friends faster. The wrong ones, but it gave you friends faster. You crossed your own boundaries because God's design and timing for you felt restricting. And now it's just guilt and shame that were your reward. You started chasing money and betting far too much because God didn't seem to be providing for you when you wanted him to. You started hustling in your faith and being a good person, and you bathed yourselves in distractions because he can't actually be that good. You just wanted some relief, and so you distracted yourself away because that calf was faster than allowing God to truly satisfy your heart. Sneaky little cows. You were in a season of waiting. And in that season of waiting, it was so long that you were tempted to believe something that wasn't true about God. And that lie formed the basis of your idolatry. And for you, it doesn't look like a golden cow. It just looks like a billion other different things. And I'm telling you, friend, your life was designed intentionally into a season of waiting. And God's number one priority for your life is to form you to look more like Jesus, because that's where life to the full is. And I'm telling you that some of you think he's a tyrant because he makes you wait. God puts you in a season of waiting to expose the little calves in you because he loves you too much, because he knows that that golden little cow can't satisfy you. And God will intentionally place you in a season of waiting that feels so long, of not knowing where you're going or what you're supposed to do with your life, not because he enjoys watching you wait, but because he wants something to boil up in you so that he can expose it out of you and fill it with something that can actually satisfy you. So 3 things I want you to learn to do when it comes to waiting. Number 1, I want you to pay attention. The problem isn't that you waited too long. The problem was that you waited without trust. So I want you to learn to pay attention. Where am I forcing something? Where am I rushing what God hasn't released to me? Where am I numbing instead of trusting? Where am I grasping for certainty instead of God? Where are you consistently anxious or exhausted? Because if you're consistently anxious or exhausted about your life or your future, you might be managing an outcome that God never asked you to manage. Pay attention and then name your weight. It is impossible to trust God in a season that you refuse to identify. It's impossible. You can't trust God in a season you refuse to identify. It can be a long season, it can be a short one. And that looks like you just being honest with yourself and saying, I'm waiting for blank. I'm tired of waiting for blank. I'm afraid that God won't blank. You got to name your weight. And then this is the hardest one. Because for a lot of you, for the first 2 you could probably learn to do on your own. This one is the one that God has to do in you. You need to identify your lie. Because the reality is that waiting doesn't create lies. It just reveals the ones you were tempted to believe in. And it just looks like asking yourself, because I'm waiting on blank, I started to believe that God is blank. So here's the reality about a golden calf. Your golden calves are always almost formed from distorted beliefs about God's character. And some of you already know what your golden calf is. And God didn't expose it in you to shame you. He exposed it because he loves you too much to let it lead you. And if you want to know what it means to wait, you want to know what it means to wait well, it looks like trusting God without managing outcomes. This is how you get formed. This is what changes you. This is what makes you look more like Jesus. This is what helps you discover life to the full. This is where you find the life that you actually want to live. To wait and to wait well looks like trusting God without managing outcomes. The problem wasn't that you waited too long. The problem was that you waited without trusting him. And so here's the last thing I want to do. We're gonna do a response song here in a moment. I want to read Isaiah 40 over you, 28 through 31. Because this is what's going to teach you what happens in you when you actually wait. Here's what it says. Do you not know, and have you not heard, that the Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth, and he will not grow tired, and he will not grow weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. And here's what I want you to remember. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and they will not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. And that word hope in Hebrew is kavah, and kavah directly translates to wait. So those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. That's what happens when you wait. Waiting doesn't look like running around and meditating. Some of you are in seasons where you were just looking for a little direction. You were just looking for God to ease the pain away from you, and you started to believe something about God that wasn't true, and that's what formed the idol that you currently baptize yourself in. You never wanted to go downtown. You just felt lonely. That was it. You started getting put into seasons of waiting, and what God did is he put you in it not because he hates you or because he's mad at you. God put you in a season of waiting because he wants to expose these stupid little cows that you're settling for, then none of them can satisfy you. You want to know what it looks like to wait and to wait well? It looks like to trust God without managing outcomes, because this is what happens in you when you wait. Those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. You're going to get a little stronger. You're going to soar on wings like eagles. You will run and you won't get tired. You will walk and you will not faint. There's a reason this goes from soar to run to walk. Not from walking to running to soaring. There's a reason he puts walking last, is because the majority of your life is going to look like walking. And I'm telling you that while you wait, an option will be given to you to believe something about God that wasn't true, and that will form the basis of your idolatry. And you will go down roads you never wanted to go for. And all of it started because you had to wait. And the reason I know this is true is because from your Old Testament to the New Testament in your Bible, there's 400 years. And they call that the 400 years of waiting. They call that the 400 years of silence. The entire Old Testament ends with God sending messengers and sending prophets and sending teachers and sending all these people who are sending them messages and a ton of different messengers. You get to the end of the Old Testament, before Matthew starts, there's 400 years of absolutely nothing. And the reason I know that everything I just told you is true is because Exodus 32 told you it was, but because in those 400 years of waiting, God sent Jesus. And Jesus wasn't a messenger. He was the message. He was not the messenger. Jesus was the message. And so how do I know how God feels about your waiting? Is because into the middle of it, he sent him. And if you want to know what it's like to wait, if you want to know what it's like, how God feels about your seasons of waiting, you have to look at Jesus, because it's someone that knows what it's like to wait. You know what it's like to live 33 years of your life waiting for the day that you'll die. Waiting to know that the culmination of your life is going to be this one moment on the cross. That the culmination of the story of the Exodus was the ocean, and the culmination of the story of Jesus would be the cross. Because into your Egypt, God didn't send you Moses, he sent you Jesus. And he wasn't the messenger, he is the message. A God that knows what it's like to weep, a God that knows what it's like to bleed, a God that knows what it's like to feel anxiety, a God that knows what it's like to wait. But no one ever taught you how to wait. And if you want to walk out of here and know what it's like to wait well, you'll learn to start trusting God without managing outcomes. You'll learn that his heart is far better than his hand, but that's going to terrify you, because it's going to put you in positions where you really got to learn to trust him. And I'm telling you that if you can learn to name your weight and identify your lie, you will end up living the life that you actually want to live. And the reason I know it's true is because into your waiting, that 400-year period isn't just a story of history, it's your story too. And into your waiting, God sent you Jesus. And he knows what it's like to hurt, and he knows what it's like to wait. Do you know him? He is the solution to your waiting. And increased dependency on Jesus was always the goal for you. And God is going to put you in a season of waiting, if that's what it takes to expose the lie in you, to increase your dependency on Jesus. And so those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. You will soar on wings like eagles. You will run and not grow weary. You will walk and not grow faint. That's what happens when you wait. So let me pray for you. God, thank you that all of this was nothing that I had to make up. Thank you that this is all, things that you've been telling us for thousands of years. This is generational worth of truth in this book. Thank you that waiting was your idea. Creating the world and the fabric of the world of creation in Genesis 1, when you made it, you made seasons of waiting intentional. Some of these people are in this room thinking that they're in a season of waiting for the relief, and the reason they haven't gotten it yet is because something's wrong with them or something's wrong with you. And will you help them to see that sometimes you're going to put them in a season of waiting where they don't know what's happening or where they're going. They're going to end up in a desert somewhere, and they're going to wonder where you were or what you were saying. They're going to end up in 40 days of waiting just like the Israelites were, and they're going to be tempted to believe something that's just not true about you. And they'll start living out behaviors that they never wanted to live out. And it's not because they wanted to, it's because they were lied to. And thank you that in our waiting, you wouldn't send a messenger. You would send a really clear message about how you feel about it. And you would send us Jesus. So for the person tonight, God, that doesn't know Jesus, I pray you would help them to know him. For the person tonight that's never decided, that never has ever learned what it's like to actually walk with Jesus and to put their faith in Jesus for the first time, would you help them to do that tonight? It just looks like being honest with you and telling you, I need a Savior. I'm so tired of waiting. God, and I'm thinking about the person in the room that's been waiting on some healing, has been waiting for you to take the pain. God, I'm thinking about a really specific group of dudes in this room who showed up tonight in the past week, lost one of their friends. And they know what it's like to wait. And in their waiting, I'm thankful you brought them here, because at some point in these next couple of days, I'm convinced that a lie would have slipped into their minds about you, and they would have run to something else to cope. Teach them that Jesus is better. God, help them to believe that waiting looks like trusting you without managing the outcomes, and that the heart of God is far better than his hand. Would you help them to see? I can't help them see. Will you help them to see? So we ask for all this in Jesus' name.